So, turns out the next content update is taking much longer than expected to release. I thought at this point I'd be able to at least hop on the test server and show you guys some new content at this point, but it looks like because of the DDoS attacks and maybe some other reasons we don't know about, the release has been pushed decently far back. In the meantime though, I thought I might as well share some of my thoughts on what I think needs to change in Deadside. And I use the word change very intentionally, because I want to talk about only things that are already in the game, and things I think wouldn't be too difficult or time-consuming to change. So, first I want to talk about balance. And if you didn't see this coming, you really should have. The UMR. At the moment, it costs 30k from a trader. 30k. An AKM costs 50k. Alright, now, some of you, well, okay, most of you have already seen my big damage chart when it comes to weapons. And if you go to that damage chart, you will see how well the UMR performs. So let's look here in shots to kill. Against somebody that's unarmored, it's only going to take 2 shots. And for anybody with armor, it's going to take 4. Against headshots, though, it does the same as smaller pistol calibers, so like an AKSM, P90, pistols, that sort of thing. If you look down here though at time to kill, the UMR performs better than the RPK, well every AK, the BB19. The only things that kill faster than UMR are mostly like the high tier assault rifles that you're gonna find from missions and stuff. When it comes to reload time, it's kinda slow, but it's not that much of an issue. And its recoil is ridiculously good, as well as its handling. I don't know, it's always seemed a bit ridiculous that the UMR only cost 30k. If you want to run an AK, that's going to cost 50k, and if you want a good sight, that's going to be another 20k. So we're talking 70k total for an AKM with the sight, when you could pay 50k total for a UMR, and the UMR will outperform the AK in almost every possible situation you put it in. CQB, kills faster, longer range, lower recoil. It's pretty broken. I think they should probably increase the price to maybe 40 and 50k. If they don't want to do that, what I think they can do is they could nerf the damage versus body armor, because they've already done that to helmets. It's just against chest armor, it still does that 50 damage, so it has a super fast time to kill. I think if they nerfed his performance versus body armor, it would kind of put it in a unique spot in the game where it kills super fast to unarmored, but against body armor it's kind of slow. That way it could also stay cheap. I would much prefer that versus just a price increase and call it a day, you know? So that's my rant about the UMR. Next I want to talk about the BB19. And now I know I've already made a full video on the BB19, but I gotta mention it here. It cost 200k to buy from a trader. You heard me right, 200k, and I know I just finished about the UMR. You could buy 6 UMRs for the price of a BB19. The BB19 also doesn't spawn on any bots. I feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity. It'd be kind of cool if the heli guards or bunker guards got the BB19. I think it'd be some interesting variety. Some other things I think would improve the game's weapon balance, but aren't necessarily required, is to give the Grom better handling, maybe even more recoil if they think that better handling would make it OP, and then bump up its trader price just a little bit. I think at the moment, Grom, it sits in a weird place. It sort of has the same characteristics of a UAG, except it doesn't have the good recoil to complement it, so I don't know. I feel like it could use a little bit of an adjustment. I would also say give the grenade launcher slightly worse handling. It just performs a little too well in places like bunker. I would like to see that the grenade launcher would be kind of risky to use while walking around, because it moves so much you might accidentally hit like a wall in front of you and kill yourself. Which also, that would be a great change, is arming distance, because most grenades don't even explode if they're shot less than 20-25 meters. That could balance the grenade launcher a little bit. Personally, I don't care. If they just gave it a little more sway when you're walking around, that's fine. It's already pretty limited by range, so I'm not too worried. I'd also like to see the N4 shotgun have slightly better handling. At the moment, it's super wobbly. It's pretty much limited to a defensive weapon platform only. Now, I don't want it to be this crazy attack shotgun sort of thing. I just want it to have slightly better handling, because I've had some situations where I'm trying to hip fire somebody like 10 meters away, and because it's swaying so much, I'm only hitting their arms or something like that. I also think it'd be interesting to let the Scorp be used as a sidearm in the pistol slot. Now, I know that'd be a little bit too good, so maybe have the stock folded, because the stock does fold. That would be pretty far into the future. I just think that's an interesting idea. But that's all I have for weapon balance. I'm sure some of you maybe are confused that I didn't mention something like the 50 cal, but I know that they're planning to add bipods in the future, so that will kind of change their weapon dynamics, so let's just leave it how it is, because it's getting changed in the future anyways. Now, one of the most interesting things that I think I would like to see changed is missions. Something that's always bugged me about the missions is that every single bot has to be killed before the reward spawns. This is how missions have worked from the start, and I think players are just used to missions working this way, and they don't really think of how it could be changed or improved. I was in the same boat for a while until the heli crashes were added. Something about them just seemed better than the missions, and for a while I couldn't really figure out what it was. But recently, I think I'm finally able to put my finger on exactly what it is that makes them different. It's pretty simple, really. The fundamental difference between the helis that makes them better than the missions is that the loot is available from the start. This is important because, unlike the missions, whenever you kill every bot in a heli crash, it doesn't send any notifications to the players. Now, that's an important detail, because at the helicopters you don't have to worry as much about players just waiting until the heli is complete. Many times at hard or epic missions, I've completed the entire mission, and as soon as the mission is complete, a 4-man squad rolls in to take the reward, or maybe a solo guy nearby in a bush sees where the reward is highlighted and camps it with a shotgun. Now, I'm sure some people are going to say that players doing this is just part of the game, and I should expect that to happen, and I agree, but only to an extent. Players should be able to camp the missions, just like players can camp the helis, cargo, and just about everything else in the game. But I think how the mission works just gives too much of an advantage to the camper. Think of it like this. Someone has to complete the mission in order for the reward to spawn in, right? Unless someone does, the mission will despawn. Well, if you show up to a mission and you hear somebody shooting the bots, there's almost no reason why you shouldn't just camp slightly outside the mission. You know that the mission isn't complete yet, you know where the enemy player is located, and if you maybe decide to kill him, in order for you to get the reward, you will have to start killing the bots yourself, and that would put yourself at a potential disadvantage for somebody just to camp you. So the best move is to stay safe, keep tabs on where the enemy player is, and just wait until the game tells you that the reward is spawned in, and then you can kill the player and get the reward in one move, only exposing yourself and giving your positional information away once. This mindset leads to situations where nobody actually wants to be the person trying to complete the mission, because chances are, they will just end up getting camped themselves. So you see what I mean now when I say that the way the missions work makes it too easy for the camper. And I'm not saying camping is wrong and it should never happen, but it should take more skill than just waiting for a notification and then camping a highlighted blue box so you can see through walls that a player who you know the exact location of is now going to run to that box and sit next to it for 30 seconds. And keep in mind that this player just worked for the last 10 to 15 minutes clearing out the entire epic mission, risking their own probably decent gear to being camped by players, but also getting instantly killed by a bot shooting through bushes with a 1911, which is something I also want to talk about later in the video. But I think most players will agree that the way missions work could at the very least be improved, regardless if you agree with me on the camping issue. It's annoying to have to spend 5 minutes searching for the one bot that you missed, and having the missions just despawn because somebody walked by on accident and spawning all the bots in is kinda dumb. So this is how I would change the missions in order to fix these issues. I would basically just make them more like how the heli crashes work. Instead of having all the loot spawn in one crate at the end of a mission, I think all the loot should be split between every crate in the mission area, with the loot that would normally spawn in the one reward crate being equally divided into each one. Because of this, you will no longer need the mission complete notification. You can get rid of that entirely. Instead, just having the mission despawn like the helis despawn. When no player is within 400 meters, it disappears. So when it comes to camping, the issues of players just waiting until the mission is complete is totally gone if you do it this way. Camping players will have no idea of the exact progress of somebody else doing the mission, and can only get an idea by how many bots are left. So in order for them to get that information, they would have to actually get close to the mission and see how many bots are left, instead of just sitting in a bush 250 meters away perfectly hidden. On top of that, a camping player won't exactly have an idea of how much loot is left, or what loot is left. Because of this, I think it will incentivize players to go into the mission in order to secure the loot that they want themselves. Sure, you can still camp in a bush and wait for people to hit the crates, and I'm sure people still will. But at least this way they're consistently in the mission area waiting and can be killed by players who keep their eyes out, instead of how it is now where players can just camp in a bush until they get the notification. I also feel like this will keep players around for longer, even after the mission is totally clear. I'm sure you've been to a heli crash before where the loot is already mostly gone, but players outside of the immediate area don't know that, so they still show up. And there's this long, drawn-out, pretty fun PvP battle that just organically happens. With this system, I feel like when a mission spawns, players who are interested will want to be the first people to clear out the bots, because they will have the best chance of them getting the most loot, leading to lots of PvP in the mission area before, during, and after most of the bots have been killed. I think it would also be a great change of pace from how the missions are now, because being the first person to show up to a mission is almost certainly a disadvantage. Also, while I'm on the topic of missions, I think it could also be a great idea to have high-tier bunker AI spawn in the hard and epic missions. Not very much, maybe just one squad for a hard mission and 2 for an epic mission. I think you would also have to decrease the spawn chance for the amount of high-tier loot in the reward crates in order to keep the mission balanced. But it would provide some variety to the Northeast Military Base and the Northwest Sawmill hard and epic missions, because having the bunker guards in the area while doing epic bunker missions is pretty cool, and I think other missions should have something similar. So, another thing I'd like to cover is the bunker crates. Now, I love these things, and the whole dynamic with having keys and camo guns is super cool. The only problem is that I don't really like that they can only spawn in bunker. Now, I get why it's like that. It should be really hard to get camo guns, and so limiting the crates into only one area increases that difficulty, especially in a place like Bunker, where it's just littered with long hallways with campers on the other end. By having the bunker be the only area you can get camo weapons, makes your playstyle very limited in the endgame of Deadside, where one of the only things left to do is to collect those camo weapons. I'm really hoping that the new military area that they're going to be adding in the south of the map will be able to spawn bunker crates. I would also love to see them spawn in smaller areas like the Northeast Military Base and the Southwest 10th Military Base, just only in a few spots. Now, I don't believe that this will make camo weapons more common as a result, even though in theory there are now a lot more crates overall in the world. This can be easily mediated by lowering the spawn chance of the crates heavily, and only having 1 or 2 in the smaller areas, and 3 or 4 in the bunker area, or the new military area, at the most. I think it should be decently common for none to spawn in the smaller areas, and only 1 or 2 in the bigger areas. This way they are still the most consistent spots for crates overall. It would also be very important to make their spawn time very slow, so that if somebody already hit the crates in like the last hour or so, especially in the smaller areas, you won't see them for a while. Now, if you're thinking that I might be making these crates too rare, you can always just play on a high loot server, and that will make them a lot more common. There just needs to be baseline balance compared to other gear. The devs know best how to balance the crates in multiple areas. I'm just throwing out these numbers as examples of how the crates can still be balanced while spawning in these multiple places. I really think having different high tier loot areas will add some much needed variety in the game, because having Bunker being the only place for consistent high tier gear spawns does kinda get old. I'm sure some of you older players remember the days before Bunker was added, where the best place for high tier PvP was tents and the Northeast Military Base and some other smaller spots like Radio. Now, the only spot for consistent high-risk, high-reward PvP is the bunker, and I think the lack in variety does impact the replayability overall. So those are really the three main things that I would have changed in the game already, which is just weapon balance, mission mechanics, and camo crate spawns. There are a few other smaller things that I'd like to see changed, like how the hitbox of trees should be smaller to fit their model, or how bots shooting through grass and trees is kind of broken. But I think that stuff falls under bug fixes, and I'm sure they're going to change that stuff in the future. Also, I know there's going to be a big update after I make this video, so when that hits, some of the stuff I'm talking about could already have been changed, especially the weapon balancing stuff. But I feel like I might as well talk about it since I have nothing better to do at the moment while World is waiting, and the devs might be looking for what to change next after this update is finalized. I also have a lot of ideas about stuff that I think the devs should add into the game in the future with other updates, but that's for a different video. If you guys enjoy this one enough, I'll probably make something like that in the future, if you want to see it. That's all I have for you guys for now. Thank you for watching. See ya.